to the Progression Health Podcast. I'm here with Dr. James Timmons. James, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hi, my name is James Timmons. I'm from Dublin, Ireland, and I'm currently based in Palma de Mallorca. And my specialty is exercise, health and wellbeing for adults.
Brilliant. So you have a master's as well as a PhD. So do you want to talk a little bit about your master's and strength and conditioning background? Is that right?
Yeah. So I did. My undergrad is in sports science, and then I went on to do a master's in strength and conditioning in the university. So at that stage, I was the reason I would have done that is because I was working in high performance sports, and also as an aging athlete myself, I was trying to prolong my own career in playing football. So the two coupled together really helped me, obviously learning in terms of really focusing on the strength and conditioning aspect and the sports performance, and then obviously trying to prolong my career in terms of injury prevention, etc. While I was doing my master's as well, I also did the CSCS, which is a Certified Strength Conditioning qualification from the NSCA in the United States, and that also helped me then to work with the elite sports teams. And while I was there doing that as well, I was working in the high performance unit in UCD with all the athletes there. So I originally did it for effectively to work in high performance sport.
Good, yeah. You see, Kipchoge, he broke his own record for the marathon there, and he's 37, I think. Were you able to extend your career? And, what do you think of people, I think when they stop, whatever age they stop at in their 30s, they seem to come to an abrupt stop. But can you extend your career, do you think, from your experience?
It's a good question. Well, first of all, in the marathon, it was an amazing achievement. And even if you're able to run 1 kilometer at his pace, you'd be doing very well. So, but he's just unbelievable. He's a genetic freak as well as obviously a really hard-working athlete, of course. To answer that question, it's an interesting one. I think what happens to people as they get into their, say, let's call it mid-30s, a number of things have happened. One is they've probably been playing elite sport all their life. And depending how they've looked after themselves through the years and depending on their, let's say, the sports science setup they've had or their strength conditioning background will dictate, I suppose, how well they'll be able to prolong their career. But let's just take it as a given that they've had maybe 30 years of wear and tear in their bodies. So they've joint wear and tear, a lot of mileage on the legs. So that obviously starts causing problems, okay? Because, fatigue eventually sets in. I mean just fatigue, not muscle fatigue, but I'm talking about just overall in the body. What ends up happening then as well is that maybe motivation might start to decline based on, for lots of factors, maybe to do with job, maybe to do with family, maybe to do with the social aspect. So it's a combination of a lot of things why people often retire, let's say, mid-30s. However, with obviously improvements in sports science, and with education and knowledge about nutrition and in terms of recovery strategies in sports, I think if you start at an earlier age, so as you go into, say, whether it's elite level sport or even, let's say, adult level sport, and you've already started to put in the, say, good recovery strategies, and obviously recovery being, you can talk about all these, like in terms of, say, ice baths, hot and cold showers, compression, hydrotherapy, etc., or cryotherapy and all that stuff. The main thing that you need to focus on is your sleep, your nutrition, and your hydration. And if you get those three things right throughout your whole career, I think you can add years onto the end. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things to stop early. I think if you do get those three particular things right, having good rest and recovery, I think that you can definitely prolong your career up towards the age of 40 and beyond. Obviously, it depends on what type of sport it is. If it's a more endurance-based sport, you can go further. If it's more explosive, that becomes a bit more difficult because of maybe if it's, say, soccer, Gaelic football, there's a twisting and turning nature. Whereas in things like endurance athletes, there's less of that. There's less of physicality from that perspective involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just thinking of another, I think is it Gabriel Selassie, or how do you pronounce his name? And he's like 40 and he's still running, or Mo Farah. So I think, it depends on the sport. And talking about sleep, and I think people were like to LeBron James, like, how do you stay so fit for so long? And he was just like, I take like naps. He sleeps like 10 hours or something in the season. So the recovery is a huge part of it. And then just on my last podcast, Dr. Jacob Templer was saying about how body's not really like car, right? So it's not like the wear and tear adds up physically. And you mentioned like motivation and stuff like that. I feel as though people lose motivation as their career goes on. Do you think that'd be a bigger factor than the physical wear and tear that would slow people down? Or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's not a straightforward answer. I think that, I do think like in anything, I think motivation plays a massive part in any aspect of life. Whether you want to do a master's degree, a PhD, if you want to get on your job, you want to continue your career. I think though, if you have wear and tear and you start to slow down and maybe you find that a younger person's taking your place, or that you, as a, let's say, tennis player as an example, you stop winning as much, then they go hand in hand. So like, if you're winning less, your motivation might go down. Whereas you're still at the top and you're winning a lot, and probably you're motivated to keep going. So I think it's like, it's the chicken and the egg situation. I do believe motivation is a massive part of it, but I also do believe that, motivation drops based on performance or based on what the up and coming stars are gonna do. And I also think as you get older, also you mentioned LeBron James. I'm a massive Roger Federer fan, just retired. I'm very sad about that. But one thing Roger Federer did very well was manage his schedule well, and also was a massive fan of sleep as well. So he was so clued into sleeping, as you said, probably 10 plus hours a night, or if he wasn't getting it in the night, doing it through the day as well. So, I hope that answers the question I'm trying to say. I do think motivation is very important, but I do think the physical aspect of it can impact on your motivation.
Yeah. If you get a particularly bad injury, I'd imagine that would just knock your motivation altogether. Like if you were out for a couple of months, your motivation is going to be so low because of that. And it's funny you mentioned Federer. One of my clients is a tennis mat. So she comes into the gym on her phone and she's warming up on her phone. And I took a video, I put it on social media. She's warming up on the TRX and she's looking at Federer's retirement speech and stuff. And I'm just like, it's only a warm up, so I'll allow it. But we're going to finish the session strong. You're going to make up for this. So yeah, it was sad to see him retire.
He's a god of tennis, so she's allowed to do that.
I know. I'm like, this is a one-off, so it'll be not happening again. But so obviously, yes, I assume you're retired from your soccer, like the intensity you were playing at before. Do you think your motivation has changed, and just how have you dealt with sort of I guess getting older but still staying active? Because I think that'd be a huge challenge for people when you're 20. People are just so unaware of fatigue, sleep, drinking, even all these different factors, and then you really feel everything when you're in your 30s and 40s. So how do you manage, I guess, getting older and staying active?
It's depressing, isn't it? No, I
am not going to get old. People say you slow down as you get older. I'm refusing to slow down. I'm trying to speed up.
Yeah, so there's loads of points there, as you said. So I'm going to just try to take each point at a time. But it's really interesting. You said one thing about, let's say there's one thing about why people stop as well. Just to go back on that point, you made a point about, say, in your 20s when people go out drinking, they basically just show up, barely do a warm up, barely cool down, they just do it. That's one thing. That's another thing that feeds into maybe finishing a birdie is the time and effort you have to put in probably doubles what you had to do 10 years ago. That is another factor that why people might decide they lose motivation, because they're just not motivated enough to put in the time and effort. Sorry, that's the first thing I want to just address that. Secondly is, I stopped playing at 35, so I'm 41 now. But one thing that I was always interested in was ever since I was a child, in any sport I played, I would have played rugby, soccer, and athletics at a reasonably, high level. So I was always interested in the physical component of the sport as well. That's probably why I studied what I studied. So for me, when I stopped playing, it wasn't a case of, I'm going to stop playing and that's it. I probably train harder now than I did when I was playing, because when I was playing, I had to manage my training based on a game at the weekend or to the week. Whereas now, if you don't have a game, you can hit the gym more, you can run more, you can go for cycles, and so actually I'm training as hard as ever. So I don't find it a distraction. I've actually a friend who lives in London, a PT, and he said to me, we were just talking about our training routines, and he does a small bit every day. And he goes, I just train like a professional athlete. And I just go, well, I'm not, but it's for me to train not only physically, but mentally. It's like it's probably a stress relief. When I train, I just feel great. And obviously, if I go running or cycling, or if I play a five-a-side, or if I go to the gym, they all have different components to them, both physically and mentally, that feed into probably a distressor for me. So and then you made one last point about slowing down. You're completely right. So from the age of 30, unfortunately, that's when the aging process begins. There are minor components that kick in every year. Right? But I would be on your wavelength saying that you should be, don't slow down. Keep going. If you stop, you will slow down. If you keep going, you're going to either augment or maintain your muscle mass. You're going to increase your function. You're going to increase your strength. Your cardiovascular health is going to go up. And, ultimately, as you get, say, very, very old, say 75 plus, of course you're going to have a drop off in lean muscle tissue, right? But the advantage is if you have more as you get to that age, then, although you're still going to have a drop off, but because you started off at more, it won't be as severe. Whereas if someone who was, let's say, weak, and let's say frail and didn't have the required muscle mass, they're going to drop off as well, but they're going to be in big trouble, because if they have a fall at that age, they're going to break something. And if you break something at that age, you have a much higher chance of dying. that is the truth, because you become immobile, and then other things start to happen. So you're right. You should keep going. Don't, age is a number.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're only as old as you feel. I'm trying to get my clients just to squat like a lot more, just with that idea that their hips, like keeping the hips strong, keeping the legs strong, because really, if there's only one thing you need to do in your training is to get it or outside of your training, I would say, is to be able to like stand up and sit down effectively. If you can do that till you're 90, you won't need to go to a nursing home. Like, obviously if you get diabetes or metabolic syndrome, that's different, but it's kind of like, that's the core function we want to maintain. I'm just thinking of, you were saying that, we need to do more as we get older. The former rugby player, the Connacht rugby player, he's swimming across the Atlantic right now.
I'm following him. He's brilliant. Yeah, he's rowing across the Atlantic.
I can't think of his name, but Owlstock is his name.
Owlstock, I know you're saying. Is it Damien Brown? Is it Brown? Damien?
That might be his co-swimmer. I can't think of his name. But anyway, what is he doing? Like 10 hours exercise every single day for like 100. He's done 100 days in a row now, and he's retired from rugby. So it's kind of like, do we need to slow down as we get older? Sure. How many miles is he on his body as a professional rugby player? Like?
He is just, I've been half following him, and he is, honestly, I was just listening to him, and he was doing about, as you said, 10 and a half hours of rowing a day. He's sleeping on average 5 hours a night. Now, I think he should sleep more. I think he'd actually have better. He admits that kind of, that maybe his he should actually sleep more because he'd have more energy then to row, but he's just so focused. I mean, I have utmost respect, both, like, I don't know how he does it, both physically and mentally. He's insane, but in a good way.
Yeah. And just see people like, there's a guy right now in the UK and he's doing 1,000 miles in 10 days, I think it is. So he's doing a 100-mile run every day on a trail run. So that's 60 miles. That's like 2.5 marathons a day for 10 days in a row. And it's kind of just like, I don't want to say that we can all do that, but like, I'm like in my head, I'm like, could we all do a mile a day? Absolutely. Could we do 2? Yeah. 3. So it's kind of like, I think we could all do so much more. It's a lot of it is just psychology, getting rid of those limiting beliefs that like, I'm retired from soccer now, I need to slow down. It's like, no, like just switch, kind of pivot, so you're doing other forms of exercise and it's just kind of like figure out something else that suits your body now at 40 compared to when you were 20 doing all these twists and turns,
Exactly. And actually, I think it's a way, it's, you need to think about it, as I said, from a physical perspective, of course, like in terms of the health benefits of, obviously the stronger you are, it's good for your bone density. It's obviously, it'll offset the chance of getting, sarcopenia, which is muscle wastage and adrenal setting in. Obviously, avoiding metabolic syndrome. Of course, you can't guarantee that it's going to do that because the genetic components, of course, play a part. But realistically, genes are about 25% that plays a part in how you are going to grow old. About 75 to 80% is your lifestyle and how you choose to live, both in terms of your sleep, both in terms of nutrition, and both in terms of your exercise component. And I think you made a good point is, like, some people can't run because they don't like it. That's fine. Find something you like or something that you're good at, and you need to put it into your daily routine. That's what you have to do. I actually listened to Brian O'Driscoll talk recently, just, the Irish rugby captain, former Irish rugby captain, and he was saying that when he stopped playing rugby, he said for the first 6 months, I don't want to use bad language, so I won't, but he said he kept training because all the guys were saying you become a fat something. But so he kept training, and then he said he hit a lull for 2 years where he basically took a dip. And he said his mum, it's really interesting, his mum did a kind of not a photo shoot, but did a book like of his career, and he looked at himself as an athlete versus now, and he said he got depressed. She said that motivated him to exercise. And he said now exercise is part of his daily routine. And, he said it's only a bit every day, but it's more even just mentally to feel good about himself. And, you present yourself well. I think the key I got out of that is that he feels mentally good and it's fitted into his schedule. And everyone at the start of the week or start of the day, I do it as well. I go, when am I training this? So I know my day when I have that half an hour or two, whatever it is, and I go, and that's what, like, it takes discipline. It's not just a case of, I want to do it. Of course I want to do it. But there's a discipline of a time scheduling in around your work, around your family, around whatever extracurricular activities you may have. And I think it's important that you get it in.
Yeah, I think as well, the discipline, just in my experience, it's a discipline to plan. Because if you're arriving on a Monday morning and you're like, right, what am I going to do today? You've got 101 excuses on the Monday morning. But if you're there on the Sunday night and you're like, right, could I exercise on Monday? No, it's not a good day. What about Tuesday? Yeah, it's a better day. And then I'll take a rest Wednesday, and then I'll do it Thursday. And then sure, I'll get a session in on Saturday or Sunday, So the discipline is like, it's not not to do it on the day, because that's pure like raw motivation. It's the discipline to plan out in advance and say, I'm going to do, 2 sessions or 4 sessions. And when you have a clear head, like on a Sunday night, I can't like make that point enough. It's just so much better to plan ahead of time than on the fly.
I totally. I mean, I think you need to have a contingency plan in place. Say, right, okay, so say you have 3 sessions a week planned, but you have also then a kind of a floating space where, well, if something comes up on that day, I can still get it in another time. I think it's important to have that extra planning in place. I have that as well. I always have a contingency. Okay, if something happens for whatever reason, I'm able to throw it in there. It's just planning, because you said.
Yeah, I'd be like that actually with, I'd move things around. So I have like a short session or a long session. And then if the time allows, I'll do the longer session. But if it doesn't, I switch it around. And then sometimes you definitely, I think it's a bit of discipline to be like, you know what? Like I have to kind of decide between like, do I want to just have a quiet, chill afternoon, or do I want to like get this session in and then maybe enjoy the weekend a bit more because I've been disciplined? It's kind of trade-off.
I agree. It's easy to just not do it.
Absolutely. But then I think, I don't know, do you get this if you don't do exercise? A bit of kind of guilt or sort of just like, could have done better there, Do you ever just not do a session and you're just like, yeah, I know I could have. I know I had the time. I know I had the ability, and I just said no. Do you ever get that?
I do. I mean, yeah, I do, but I have to admit it would be something that I would rarely do. And I try to justify in my head, say I needed the rest. But at this stage of my life, and because I'm obviously, I've been training all my life. It's not something new to me. I know when my body needs to rest. So sometimes I have a planned session, I may not do it because I know actually I'm better off not doing it. I'm listening to my body. But what you're saying, yeah, if I didn't do it just for the sake of not doing it as an excuse, like I'd feel guilty. I would. Yeah. But I don't think everyone has that guilt. I mean, I think we're speaking maybe from a different perspective, and that's something to understand both as a trainer or a sports scientist or whatever your background is. I think it's really important to understand that us, or the trainer is not the client, and they might have a completely different mindset to us. So that's just worth bearing in mind, of course.
Oh, absolutely. I think we're talking about like the endorphins we get from like exercise. And I know for a fact that a lot of people don't get that at all. Like we're very lucky to get that. So yeah, just doing stuff that you enjoy, doing activity you enjoy is so important, which is your expertise in working with older adults. How can we stay exercising, for the long term? How can we adhere to a workout plan and maintain our health as we get older, especially as the world's population is getting older?
Yeah, so that's a good point. So, we all know that the world is getting older, and across the board. And not only are we getting older, we're getting more sedentary. So just because we're living longer doesn't necessarily going to mean we're going to live healthy. So my mantra is trying to match your health span to your lifespan. And what that means in simple terms is if you live to 100, right, that's your lifespan. But if you only health until you're 80, but that means you're going to have 20 years of bad health. So that's your health. So ultimately, what you're trying to do is live as long as possible, but as healthy as possible. So I always say, live to 100. The first 99 and a half years is in good health. Now, if the last 6 months aren't too bad, okay, I think you've had a good innings with that. So that's the first kind of thing people need to understand is living longer is great, but a lot of that's due to modern medicine and technology. And that's going to continue to happen, right? But we need to make sure that we're offsetting that with a healthier lifestyle. And the best ways to do that obviously are, good sleep habits, good nutrition habits, and good exercise habits. My expertise is certainly in the exercise component of that. So what you're trying to do is then, as you're living longer, years ago it would have been doctors or GPs or would have said medics, okay, you need to rest, slow down. But actually you don't. You treat individual person as an individual and say, right, you need to keep going, as we discussed earlier. So, I'm not saying someone who's never ran before in their life and you get them at 70 years of age, you get them to run a marathon. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, if you had a 7-year-old who has been running all their life, there's no reason why they shouldn't continue to run if their body allows. Obviously then you may offset that and say, right, well, they have a knee joint pain, an ankle joint pain, you might, but you might say, right, we're going to do some maybe cross training, or we're going to do some cycling or rowing, something that's still cardiovascular, working on their cardiovascular health, but is maybe saving their joint if they can't do that. So the important part is that what I would say is whatever the individual likes to do, and if they try to push them in that and get them to keep going. And if they don't like doing something, well, you're going to have to persuade them, encourage them that actually the opportunity cost of not doing something is basically early death or living a horrific lifestyle that you're going to be medicated up and you're going to lose your dependence. So what every old adult wants is independence. So then you encourage them and you get them motivated to do that, okay? Because everyone, certainly from an exercise adherence perspective, would have excuses not to do it. So they need to know the importance, obviously, we don't, but certainly we would know the importance of strength training, right? But cardiovascular training is just as important. Cardio would have been the original one that everyone should have said to do. And now it's gone the other way, everyone needs to strength. The reality is you need to do what's called concurrent training, which is cardiovascular training and strength. And the two together are a lethal combination, potent combination to improve your cardiovascular health, which is the most important muscle in your body. If you don't have your cardiovascular health, if that stops, you're pretty screwed. But obviously also then your musculoskeletal health, which is really important particularly for bone density and obviously maintenance of lean tissue, strength and function. If you lose all those, again, you're in trouble because then you might fall and break something, be frail and weak. And if you do that as you get older, and again, you're probably going to die young. So it's that's the education importance of it. The adherence. So that's the science will say one thing. That's great. Me and you can have a discussion here all day and talk about the science. And we can grade and promote it to everyone. But that's not good enough, because how do you get the older adult, that individual, to embrace what you're telling them and actually do it on a consistent, regular basis? Everyone wants that magic pill. But you know what the magic pill is? As you know, this is consistency. Consistency is the magic pill. So from my empirical research, and also then from my own anecdotally in terms of my own work that I'm doing currently, and particularly of the last 10 years working with older adults, is they're not quite the same as what a younger, say, model wants to do. Okay, when I say model, I don't literally mean model. I just mean a younger version of that person. Older adults value maybe the knowledge of the trainer that has trained them. Okay, they also value they're not trying to get ripped or jacked or buff for the gym. They don't like actually that gym environment, but they have definitely more, they're trying to have things more like, can I play with my grandkids, right? Can I live on my own? Can I do all the things I always do on a regular basis? And those type of things are much more important. I'm not saying that people don't want to look good, but it's about then getting them into that environment. And I found the best way is to create an environment that's not a claustrophobic gym environment, but it's that sociable element that they're getting good cardio hit, a good strength hit, a good mobility hit, but also that social component to it. They might have a glass of whatever, a cup of tea afterwards or something like that, but there is that type of social element to it. And then they feel accountable to keep going because their friends are going, because they've got this friendly environment to the trainer. They're not just going to the gym and do a selfie and, have that aesthetic component, right? And that really is how I've certainly found in terms of the adherence for older adults to continue training. Does that make sense in all that, what I was trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm trying to run a half marathon in 5 weeks for the American Cancer Society. And so my granddad passed away from cancer. He played tennis till he was 80. So that's where I get my tennis. We talked about the tennis already. So I'm just thinking of him. He would have played tennis with his buddies and wouldn't have been running around the place. He wouldn't have been getting the best workout, but the social element, doing a little bit of exercise, the consistency, I think it was twice a week he did it, till he was 80. So it's everything you said there, it doesn't have to be a marathon or anything crazy. It's just something more as well than for looks. It's the selfie is not helping anyone. If you're doing a game of doubles tennis where you're having the crack with your friends, you might have tea or a drink after, whatever, get so much more out of it. So I think that's something that people don't really get. They don't really sort of think, when they think of exercise, they think of no pain, no gain. And it's social element, I'm talking about the runners Kipchoge and stuff. My social element is seeing other people that inspire me. There's a guy right now and he's 50 years old trying to be the fastest over 50 marathon runner. Ken Rideout is his name. And he is trying to do it in under 2:25, 2 hours, 25 minutes at 50. Which is outrageous. So, that's kind of I don't want to say that's my community, but that's kind of I get it. It's more than just I'm running and it's painful. So do you think people don't really get most out of exercise because they don't see all the other benefits outside of the physical? Well,
you've just touched on so many good points there, I have to say. So in relation, so first of all, your granddad, whether he's playing doubles tennis twice a week or singles, whatever it was, right? There's a skill element to that, first of all, right? Whether he's good or not. So there's a coordination and balance element to that. Okay. And he's not getting much of a cardiovascular, let's be honest about it. But the social aspect of that, you can't, there's no value to put in that. There is no value. And that is very much underestimated. I do think though, for those social tennis and golf, who I would deal a lot with, you still have to stress the importance though of doing some resistance training or strength training. That doesn't have to be in a gym environment, by the way. That can be done using their body weight, as you made the point earlier, squatting, getting up and down of a chair. That can be done. Doesn't have to do 100 kgs in your back. You know, with your body weight, or you can do a banded resistance training. So I do think that component has to be stressed, but you cannot put a value on as you said, the social element of a tennis club or a golf. Right? Then you made a really good point as well about the value people place in exercise and why they exercise. And this, I have a huge problem with this, right? I really do. It bothers me a lot. And so if I go off on a rant here.
Here's the controversial opinion for social media. Here we go.
No, but I do believe, well, first of all, social media has ruined the fitness world because it's all about the selfie, right? It's all about, like, look at me. That's all personal trainers want to do. It's not about training you. It's about, look at me, look at James Timmons, look how ripped I am, look at my, but like, they don't care. So that's the first thing I hate. So they're not even giving a decent message across. And it's all fake. So, but anyway, that's a side note on that. Secondly, then, is about the benefits of exercise. And I know, because I go to a commercial gym myself. I see it. I see young people, they're taking steroids. I can see the needles, right? I listen to what they're talking about. It's all about the supplementation they should be taking, which there's nothing wrong with. I'll get to in a second, but I'll make a point about this. And then they're all in the change rooms, literally look at their pecs, look at their six packs, so-called six packs. They do it with their tops off in the gym. So their only reason for going is aesthetic purposes. And I have no issue with that, right? I don't have an issue with going for aesthetic, but that is a very minor component of why you should train. However, it's probably why 99% of the population do train, right? So it's a minor component why you should train, but it's probably the reason why most people do train. So that's the kind of caveat to all that, right? I have this argument with friends all the time. They say, oh, you only go to the gym to X, Y, and Z. I said, no. I said, I go to the gym actually to de-stress, and it's from a totally mental perspective. But also, obviously, I'm well versed and studied in the environment. I understand, the metabolic component that it has inside you. I understand the strength benefits have in terms of your, prevention in later life, falls, your bone density, maintenance of lean muscle tissue, all, possible prevention of cardiovascular disease, prevention of cancer. I'm not saying that these things aren't going to come up bestowed upon me, but I am saying that you're giving yourself the best opportunity to live as long and healthy as possible if you train with that mentality. I prefer personally, when I train with individuals or groups, is to give them not, it's very hard to say to someone, okay, we're going to train and just, because we're going to, we're going to reduce the cholesterol in your blood. I mean, that could be a reason, but you're probably better off giving someone a performance goal. So whether it's on the rowing machine, whatever it is, or running or cycling, and you try to improve in that performance aspect, as a trainer in the background that actually all the training you're doing is actually going to help, X, Y, and Z. And I think that's the real factor that's really not understood out from the general population, that the benefits of exercise are very little to do with aesthetics and actually really to do with your health performance.
Yeah, 100%. So I never really ran when I was younger. I only I think I did about maybe 5 long runs in my years before I started doing the half marathons recently. And I literally put it in my calendar. This is like anxiety management running. So if I don't get activity in and exercise in, I get more anxious, or I even get a little bit depressed. So I started telling myself, you're going to get more anxious. You're going to get more depressed if you don't do this. So it was sort of like something like a doctor might say. And it wasn't that I knew for a fact that go for a run and feel zenned out or on cloud 9. But it was what else can you try? As in, what's your best bet apart from exercise? And I knew over time then I started to realize that with the exercise, maybe I didn't feel amazing, but I didn't feel the anxiety. I didn't feel the depression. It was I kind of was on a 6 out of 10 type of kind of mood, we'll say, as opposed to being really stressed out or whatever was afflicting me. So, exercise is your best bet to, I'd say, manage your mental health. And then you'll feel better about yourself if your mental health is good, because, I'm sure you've been lean before, and it's not all it's cracked up to be lean, it's kind of, it's but to be really, to be, we'll say, the leanest you've ever been, it is overrated.
Well, you see, there's a great, is it by the man from Precision Nutrition? There's what's his name?
Berardi?
I can't think of it. Yeah, thank
John
you.
Berardi?
Yeah, John Berardi, exactly. He wrote a great article on the cost of being lean. And actually, it's one article I share and give to people, but you're right. The cost of being lean, if you want to be, let's talk about male percentage body fat. If you want to be, in terms of a DEX, if you want to be 18, between 15 and 18, yeah, that's very achievable. Not too bad. If you want to be between 12 and 15, still think that's achievable. If you get down between 10 and 12, it becomes a bit harder. Sub 10 on a DEXA, you're working for that, and you're offsetting, going out or drinking or whatever your, desserts, all these things. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a lifestyle choice you have to make if you do want to be that lean, of course. So some people do but yeah, I think the cost of being lean is a great article, first of all, but you're right. I think you have to understand what you're trying to achieve. But I do believe on your point about the mental health, about, less stressful. I don't think anyone ever feels bad after a session, unless it's a lactate session where you're going to get sick, which I've done. But in terms, I don't believe everyone ever feels bad after a session. And actually, what it does do is, particularly people who want to look better, let's say, if you do train, right, you may not have dropped much body fat. Actually, you may have barely had any body composition change at all. Because you feel better yourself, you look in the mirror and you think you look better. And so if you're depressed or you're feeling low or stressed, you'll have what's called body dysmorphia, and you'll start to look at yourself in a bad light. Whereas if you're cardiovascular fitter, you'll see yourself in a better light and you'll start to feel less pain. And what I mean by that, I kind of digress a bit there, but I used to work in a back pain specialist clinic, and for lots of different reasons why people will come with back pain. But what we used to do straight away, the first thing we do is get them fitter. 50% of the people who get them fitter, their pain goes. Because they start to feel better about themselves. And now I'm not saying, some people did have issues. I'm not saying, I never doubted someone said they, but I'm just saying that if your cardiovascular fitness is better and you're feeling stronger, globally stronger, I think you're going to be in less pain. You're going to feel better about yourself, and you're going to see yourself in a better light.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I had a client recently who came to me 8 months ago with back pain, and it's kind of, we're talking off air about people, they think they want, for example, the 6-pack abs, or they want to see this cool new supplement or whatever, but what they need could be totally different. So this client was afraid to do deadlifts, afraid to do heavy training. And I just kind of slowly but surely started putting in a little bit. Over time, their back pain went away because basically they got stronger and fitter themselves. They turned up for the sessions and stuff. So that's actually a lot of the work that people need to do, is kind of do stuff you enjoy, like bicep curls or whatever sport it is, but then also do a little bit of if it's cardiovascular work, do a longer run to get that base of fitness in, or do, some kind of compound movement to really get your strength up, because that's where the real benefit lies. So you kind of need to get a mix of what you enjoy. Definitely get an enjoyment out of what you're doing. Don't purely do it for the benefit, but then also try and have some specific goal in terms of the benefit you're trying to work on. Because you don't get stronger by resting and stuff like that if you have back pain, or if you're feeling down. If you stay inside and you don't get outside, you get stronger by, I guess, kind of testing yourself, I would say. So yeah, that's really important. I totally agree. Yeah, and just a question I'm thinking of: do you think there's any people out there who genuinely don't enjoy exercise? So let's say someone isn't active, right? And they're a little bit overweight, that's a big problem. I think people actually genuinely do not enjoy exercise, or they're just kind of, maybe they've low confidence or depression, anxiety, or an injury or something else. Okay.
Again, this is just being opinions, but I think it's, very hard for me to speak on behalf of everyone here. So what I think is this, you touched on the point. I think it happens at a very young age. I'll try to give you an example. As children, right? People, they grow up, and people are, so obviously this skill versus talent and different things. Some people are genetically, more sporty than others. Let's say use the word sport. So what happens is they play a certain sport, or they become active and they're fast, or whatever. And then so they get positive reinforcement. They do it, they feel good, and they keep going, and they keep going, and then that becomes a lifelong kind of habit in a sport or activity. Someone at the start, maybe who found it harder, maybe was, for whatever reason, might have been slightly heavier, or, whatever, might have been carrying excess body fat at a younger age, for whatever reason, they then would have lower confidence. They don't want to do it because they feel out of breath and bad about themselves or whatever, and they stop doing it. So then, while one person goes this way, they go this way. So then they get to a stage where does that person who's gone that way, do they like exercise? Probably not, because they have gone down such a, and I'm giving extreme examples. I'm saying that they've gone down such a path that they don't even, it's in their head that this is not, they're not sporty, their exercise is not for them, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, that's, I think, a learned process over time. I do believe that, if they were to do it, I think they'd start to see the health benefits from it and start to feel better about themselves. On the other side of the flip side of the coin, the person who's gone that, do they love doing exercise all the time? No, probably not. They probably hate doing it sometimes because they're tired, they want to rest, but they do it because they're motivated to do it. So like, I think so to answer your question, do I think there's someone who don't like exercise? Yeah, I do. I do believe that. But I think there's a reason for it. And as you said, it's probably a lot to do with confidence. I think that's really the word I would use and I see it. I see it in my kids. I understand how that could happen.
So it's kind of like a conditioning thing where the experiences they've had have led them. They might have, been bullied, or they might have just, been unlucky, or they might have been in a particular age group, where like they tried and trained just as hard as anyone else, but maybe like they genetically, for example, basketball is the obvious one, right? So they're like, they trained as hard as the next fella, but they were like 5'5" or something. So like they just were unlucky that way. So it's kind of like, it's not that exercise, they don't enjoy exercise. It's that they just have been unlucky in the experience that they've had with exercise. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. Yes. I mean, it could be to do with a sport, or it could be just to do with exercise in general. Yeah, but I think but again, that's just my opinion. Like, that might not be true. There might be just people who generally just do not like exercise, and that's fine. I mean, there could be top athletes, by the way, who, when they retire, they never want to exercise again because they just don't like it. I mean, so like, and I'm sure there is people like that. I deep down would find it hard to believe that is really the case. But if they tell me they don't, they don't. But I've never met anyone who said, I hate exercise, like really hate it. I know people who find it very difficult to exercise, but I know if they're coaxed or persuaded to do it, that they do feel better after.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't think I know anybody who hates it. There's definitely people who dislike it, and making me think the tennis again of Agassi. Did you read his autobiography? And
I did. I actually did. I did. I'm a big tennis fan, so
his parents kind of almost forced him to play, and he was actually happy to retire in the end.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, yeah, now that's sport versus exercise, of course, but I mean, they're two different things. But yes, it was nearly beaten into him that he had to do it, so he ended up hating it. So yeah, again, that's a whole other topic we could go into. But yeah, I mean, I did read that, and that was but like, ultimately that boils back down to your environment that you're brought up in, whether it's a family environment or friend environment or school environment, like it's nature versus nurture, like all those factors, and particularly, all those factors, your surrounding environment plays a massive role in how you develop both as a person and even how you say your likiness to exercise or not. 100%.
Yeah. So, we know, I think it's like 60% of the population is overweight, right? So and I know like the percentage of, like, I think it's in the US, I think it's like only 25. I actually was told, I quoted it's 25% of adults are doing sufficient exercise. And then someone was like to me, that's extremely generous. They said it's way lower than that, right? So we'll just assume that most adults are not doing enough exercise, right? So like, we'll say the recommendations they're getting are wrong about how to increase their training. What would you say to someone who's like, I want to exercise more, but I'm just not? And it's like, I want to, but I'm not. I have 2 kids, or I have this injury, or I have a barrier. How do they get to meet the requirement?
Good question. I think there's 2 things. I mean, first of all, there's 2 answers to this. One is, if you're looking at the individual, just as an individual per person, what I would do personally is I would always try to feed into, look at their day as a whole, see what they like to do, and then try to integrate it into their day. But in the overall, to answer your question in an overall sense, the recommendations are regardless if you look at the NSCA or the ACM or, the general or the WHO guidelines are, they say 5 by 30 minutes a week. And then for cardiovascular work, and then 2 strength sessions. They're so generic and they're ridiculous. They actually don't even, that was one of the things, that was one of the reasons my PhD question was made. It was because there actually is no recommendations, particularly for older adults. Sorry, there's recommendations, but they're just general and they don't actually give specifics. And we try to come up with specifics, but that's a separate question. To answer your question is, I would say people should take on board what's called exercise snacking, which is this so you have what's called a snacking menu. And from your menu, you do a weekly menu, and then from that you can pick and choose what falls in. So it's like a food menu, but it's an exercise. So for example, you rather than saying, right, well, I don't have time because I have kids or I have work, whatever your excuse is, you go, okay, but I do have, 3 5-minute slots throughout the day that cumulatively over, let's say even 5 days a week, 7, even if it's over 6 days a week, that'd be 90 minutes, right, of work that could be done, right? And the beauty about 5-minute exercise snacks is that you can work at a very high intensity, right? So you can pick an exercise at a high intensity and do it, say, a 3 5-minute slots throughout the day over whatever, 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week, whatever you decide it is, you will get depending on what it is, whether it's strength, let's just say with cardiovascular, you could get a sufficient amount done even in that 5 minutes. So you could do 5 minutes of body weight strength exercises. You could do a 5-minute HIIT exercise of cardiovascular work. And your man, Jabala from, I think, Canada, he's done loads of work on like these 1-minute workouts. But like now over a short period of time, they do work in terms of, increasing your cardiovascular health. I'd like to see them over a longer period to see if actually if one, it's sustainable, and two, if it's, obviously I think this would be a huge plateau, like in terms of the limits you can reach. But I think if you do, exercise snacking is the key, in my opinion, to for people who are time poor to augment their both strength, fitness, cardiovascular fitness, and say mobility and flex. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm thinking of one of the other trainers in the gym. So he benches something like 3 plates, like 315, right? Like that was his most. And I was like, oh my God. And he was like, oh, I do like loads of stuff for my bench, right? And he was saying he does push-up. And I was getting for a while there, like such a good workout, like 5 minutes of just doing as many push-ups as I could. And it's so effective. You feel so good after it. You don't need much for it. And I can imagine like someone who isn't very active, they could do so many things. Like, if they had bands even, or if they just did bodyweight squats or lunges or, hip extensions, whatever. So yeah, that would really add up. Like if you did that for a few weeks, 5 minutes, twice a day.
It adds a lot. Look, put it like this, just in simple terms. Let's say you did it twice a day, 5 minutes, let's say you did 6 days a week, right? Just say, right? That's 60 minutes per week, right? Add that up over a year. That's 50 hours, like 50 hours of good solid work. That's a lot at that intent, so it's just small cumulative bits over time. And obviously the more you do, the probably more you want to do, and then the more you'll add on. So it's the way to add up time. And like, it doesn't have to be a lot. That's the key. It doesn't have to be this big, inconvenience in your life. As you said, it can be 5 minutes of press ups, planking, press up, plank. I'm just giving examples. It can be, squatting to a chair. It can be just so many, like there's a million exercises you can do. Like I have a library of them. Like with older adults, my mantra is I only work bodyweight and resistance bands only. It's not that I don't agree with weights, but that's what I use, So everything can be done. That can be done from your own house.
Absolutely, yeah. And if they could get into a gym, I'd get them under the barbell. Just that's my bias. You were talking about like removing like barriers to exercise as well. And I'm just thinking of, you were talking about like the DEXA scan, and when I was lean, like I was overdoing the exercise to get like 9% body fat. And you just, if you're really exerting yourself excessively, like if it's not sustainable, if you feel like you're doing too much, you almost definitely are. Like, whereas the 5 minutes just sounds like golden. Like you can really add up 5 minutes across the week. Like you could even do 5 minutes one day. You could do 4 by 5 another day. So I think that's huge. And then just another bit of research you had, and a point you talked about, sedentary behavior. So basically being inactive, right? So the kind of opposite of everything we're talking about. I heard sitting is the new smoking. So let's say some people are kind of like, I sit down in the evening after work. Sure, I'm on my feet all day. What's the big deal? Like, I'm just sitting down. But like, should people be worried about how much time they're inactive in a day?
Well, 100%. I mean, with the way we live as modern adults, or even children, let's talk about adults. I mean, again, I'm giving a generalized point here, is that once you get up in the morning, you probably drive to work, you're seated, and now I know with COVID things have changed, but let's just say, you drive to work, you're seated in an office all day, you probably have your lunch at your desk, you come home, you could be commuting, and like, depending where you live in the world, like, if you could be commuting for 1 or 2 hours a day, both ways. Then you come home, you have your dinner, you sit down, first of all, you've barely burnt any, you haven't burnt much energy, right? So in terms of your caloric intake, so you're probably over consuming in terms of you're taking in more energy than you're expending. Then you're sitting down, you're in a hunched position. It's bad for your posture. You're shortening your muscles. You're probably watching screen time sitting down. That's not good for you. So ultimately, do it once. It's fine. But there's nothing wrong with sitting down and watching telly, by the way, at all. I'm not saying that. And obviously, people with their job. But I think what's really important to understand is look at your day as a whole and say, right, well, actually, how sedentary am I? Okay, well, I have to drive to work because I have no option. Like, okay, I have to sit at my desk. I have no option. Okay, but could I have a standing desk? Maybe every hour at my desk, can I get up and walk around the office for 5 minutes? Are there stairs in my office? Instead of taking the lift, can I take the stairs? I know these are obvious things, but can I do 5 minutes of stair walking? That will get your heart rate up, let me tell you. When I get home, can I instead of going home, can I go straight to the gym before I go home, because then I won't settle, I get that work done. When I go home, as soon as I take off my work clothes, can I go for a run? Can I go for a walk? Can I go for a cycle? Okay, I have kids, I can't. Need to put them to bed. Okay, what I'll do is once I put them to bed, before I sit down and watch my Netflix, I'll do my 10 minutes of exercise snacking. I'll do some body weight resistance training, banded only, or I'll do some, so I think it's important to understand how sedentary you are, and then to say, right, yes, sedentary behavior will kill you eventually, because you're not using your muscles, so you're getting muscle wasted. You're being in bad postural positions. You're probably over consuming on calories that all feeds into it. And then, you're spending too much time on the screen. So like eventually, it is worse than smoking. And like it will kill. Like it's a small decline. It doesn't just happen overnight, but it happens very slowly. And then suddenly you go, what's happening? And that's the reality of it.
Compounds for sure. It's kind of like if you were to turn a blind eye to maintaining your car, and the little, dings you had in the car, or, the light going out, or all these little things adding up over time, apart from crashing the car, like, and having that big major stoppage, like over time, the car would eventually break down. Like it would take months and years and stuff. So I think your body, even though I said not to use that example, it is very much like that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, I always remember this story sticks in my head. I was flying back for an exam over in Scotland for my master's. And there was a girl on the flight next to me. I was early 30s, so she was probably in her 40s. And I was just kind of on my laptop, studying basically. And she said, she mentioned some point to me. And she said, what do you study? I said, I'm doing a master's, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, like, you're lucky, but wait, once you hit 40, it's all down. And in my head, I was thinking sorry, that's a complete lie. Like, that is not true. That is not true at all. I go, once you hit 40, if you've been doing nothing since you're 20, well, then you're going to notice the difference. But it doesn't just suddenly happen, my friends. Like, obviously I didn't say that to her, but like, there's this thing in people's head. Once you hit 60 like, that's just society making stuff up. Like, it's complete rubbish. I just don't accept those answers at all. So, I really don't.
Yeah, that point of the 40, it's like a 20-year compound, whereas it compounds the other way as well if you just stay on top of your health, which is the hard thing. And this is why we're discussing it, so.
Well, if you take, there's lots of, there's like a good paper, I'd send you on the slide, but like if you look at a sedentary 40-year-old versus an active 70-year-old, the active 70-year-old would have healthier muscle tissue than the sedentary. So what does that tell? Stay active.
Absolutely, yeah. And you'll see that as well. You could be fitter at 70 than you were at 40 if you started exercising after 40. Obviously, don't do that. Try and start when you're young.
Of course, but that's a good point to make though. Sorry, you always, obviously the earlier you start, the better, but it's never too late to start. And a really scary stat I'm going to give people is this, and I've taken it directly from Dr. Brendan Egan's TEDx talk on sarcopenia. If you haven't seen it, by the way, I definitely recommend it. It's about 10 minutes of your time. So, but he puts up a stat there, so that's why I'm quoting from him, because he's obviously quoted from somebody else, but I'm not sure the original paper is that if you have, as an older adult, have 10 days of bed rest, you will lose 8 to 10% of muscle. Right? Now, to put that in perspective, per decade, you lose roughly 8 to 10. So if you're bedridden as an older adult, you're going to lose the equivalent of what you lose in 10 days versus a decade. Now, that is one of the scariest stats that I've ever seen. That should be on every hospital wards there is. Basically, like being in bed is the worst thing you do. So like, I know that's an extreme case, of course, because you're lying down for 10 days straight. And obviously it's an older adult. But the point is, it's cumulative. If you're sedentary for a lot of the time, your muscles are wasted.
I'll give you a better one. So I wrote a blog post just about like how to exercise for life, right? And I don't know what gave me this idea, but it was like, hospitals are a death trap. You go into a hospital and you're sick, right? And you're sitting down and you're wrapped in cotton wool. I guarantee you go into a hospital, you're coming out sicker. You might have treated the disease, whatever the disease was, but you're coming out muscle wastage, think you're frail. I'm like, get rid of all the beds out of the hospital. And I mean that you'd be better off. And if you're going to be in such a worse state when you come out, and that kind of proves it, that muscle loss, the detraining effect of being sedentary, it's killing people.
In the UK, they have a thing what's called PJ paralysis. Okay, so basically you're in your PJs. So what they're trying to encourage is that, when you go in, you're being active. So my brother, I'll just give you a quick story. My brother fractured his ankle 2 weeks ago. Don't go into the details of how it happened or why it happened. But anyway, he had 2 operations, and the second one was delayed because of swelling, etc. So he ended up being there for 2 weeks. But I told him, go to the physio, ask for hand weights, ask for bands, because you need to, because you're lying down for 2 weeks. I know he's late 30s, so he's not, but still, he's going to get massive muscle wasted even in 2 weeks of doing nothing, So, in fairness to him, he did it. But I'm sure they thought he was crazy, but that's the reality of it. You're very right. Hospitals are a death. They're you need to go there obviously to be looked after, but you're right. You win with one thing and you come out with another. That's the problem.
Yeah, you're just detraining from being inactive. One thing I was thinking of when you're making all the points about how to increase your adherence is self-belief, right? So I'd imagine somebody who's low on confidence or just inactive, and they're just going to have excuse after excuse after excuse, and rightly so, because they haven't done it before, right? So with becoming more active, how important is the mental side of it and just believing in yourself, and where can you get belief from if you don't have it?
Oh, that's a great point. I think, but where can you get belief from if you don't have it? I think I would always recommend someone to buddy up with someone. So with a mate or a friend or buddy of, let's say, the States, or, a family member or something like that. So someone that you can actually train with. So that makes you much more likely to do it first. There's obviously, I can only, like, this can go across ages, but particularly for older adults, often people feel less confident that haven't done it for years. And then when they're put into an environment like a gym setting that they think is for young people, that can be very intimidating and off-putting, and then they lose more confidence. So I think what's really important is to understand if you're the trainer, understand the individual who you're training, understand what their needs are. But as the individual themselves, to understand, right, okay, I am low in confidence, to recognize, I haven't done this in a while. So what I'll do is I'll start off just with my friend or my family member or my spouse, and I'll do it in the comfort of my own home, or I'll do it in my back garden, or I'll do it in my locality that I don't feel it, right? And then as time goes on and they start to feel better, the confidence starts to go. I know particularly for people, and it's not an area that I'm an expert in and people I deal with much, but people who are particularly obese or overweight, a lot of issues they have is that the self-confidence is so low. They won't even go outside to exercise on their own because they're embarrassed that people will see them. But that is just if you take a step back and look at that, it's very sad, but it's ridiculous, because by not embracing it, they're going to stay in this bad state. Whereas if they embrace it and do it and just get over that initial hump, their confidence will start to go up. So my advice really is to try, as the individual, to try to understand where you're at, as the trainer or sports scientist looking after the person, to try to understand the individual, and then try to partner them up with either in an environment that will be correct for them, whether it's a group of like-minded people or whether it's a friend or family member that can give them the confidence and motivation to do it. That's what I would say. It's really finding the right environment.
Yeah, absolutely. The environment. Find an environment that suits you. And I have a friend, we go for a walk once a week, and I'd be on my feet all day on the gym floor and I'd be wrecked. This fella, he's so committed to going for a walk. It's brilliant for me. So only for that he wants to go on the walk that we go. So I would say that when you are low on motivation, which you will be, if you have someone or a group of people who are already going, that kind of group momentum will carry you forward on the days when you're low on momentum. And you'll do the same for them as well, because you can't always rely on motivation or self-belief, but you can get it from other people for sure. Like, we all have different levels. So that's huge. Yeah.
I'll just really quick last point on that. I think, motivation comes from within. I do think that ultimately, for the long-term sustainability, maintenance component of this, you do need to have inner strength and belief and inner motivation. That's why I firmly believe. However, I think it's very important, if you do, like your walking friend, you have someone to go with. You don't want to let your friend down. That's the reality of it. So you'll do it. So I think both are really.
Yeah, it starts from within. Like, so for example, I do the harder stuff because for my mental health, but then that walk is social, and it's also, my good friend.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So James, this has been brilliant. Is there any kind of final message you want to wrap up with, or any links or anything you want to plug?
Well, no, the final message for everyone is just like, to feel better, you got to move a lot, right? So as you age, and by the way, you're aging when you're born. So what I mean by that is, but you're particularly aging from 30 onwards, where there's slight declines, let's say, in lean muscle tissue and strength. They're very slight. Don't use age as an excuse. As you said, Ross, as you're getting older, don't slow down, keep going. And remember, benefits of exercise are not aesthetic. They are a very minor component of that. If you want to focus on aesthetics, look at your nutrition. If you want to focus on exercise, think about it for your metabolic health, getting increases in strength, trying to prevent disease as you age, trying to match your health span to your life. That's really all I want to say. And if you do want to check out what I do, go to www.uagewell.com. That's YOUAGEWELL.com, and an online platform where I try to help older athletes